Welcome back to another episode of Cobra Kai Companion, and I am Peter. And you guys, I enjoy all of my interviews, but I especially love it when it's with one of the OG actors from the original film. I've had him on at least a couple times in the last few years, but returning is Sensei Ron Thomas. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to have you come back and share some more stories, talk about some of your other endeavors. But not too long ago, we had the drop of season six, part three. You returned in episode 12. Um, what has that ride been like from your guys' times, making the rounds at the cons, being brought back in season two of Cobra Kai, and now the conclusion of the show. What's that ride been like for you?
Yeah, well, and season three too, by the way. Um, let's
Yes, yes, the one episode. That's correct. Yeah,
let's not
at the
forget
church.
that Bobby sweeps Johnny in his church.
Yes, yeah, the great scene. Yeah,
You
where
know,
he winks at the young lady sitting in there. Yeah.
yeah. So let's not forget. Yeah, Bobby still, knows when the line's being crossed and knows what to do about it. So
Hmm.
uh, even if it's Johnny doing the crossing, um,
Right.
yeah, the ride's been as you can imagine. It's been exciting. It's been surreal. Back in the day when we were filming Karate Kid, of course, there was no internet. There was no Netflix. There was no streaming video. There was none of this stuff. And so we couldn't even have imagined what was going to happen all these years later with the advent of all this technology. And so here we are, and, you know, it's a testament to the original movie, which it lives on in the hearts of generations, right? It lives on in the hearts of the original fans and their kids and their grandkids, and it just keeps going because there's something about the movie that is inspirational. It speaks to a lot of different elements of who we are as human beings, but of course the it changes lives because it inspires so many people to begin taking martial arts. You know, so I don't know. It's hard to put into words what this has all meant and the journey. We of course the original Cobras have been lifelong friends and buddies, and we've spent time together. We've traveled together. We've been to each other's weddings. We've been, to Christmas parties and birthdays, and so but there's one thing we all have in common as well, and that is the love of acting, the love of art, and being in front of the camera and doing what we love to do. So anytime we get a chance to do that together, it's magical. So I don't know. What can I say about the ride? I think for the character, Bobby, I think becoming a pastor has been a pretty spot on development of who he would have become. Originally when the creators reached out to me, they said, "What do you think?" And I said, "Well, I thought he might become an orthopedic surgeon specializing in knee repair."
Right.
But I like the fact that he became a pastor. He's still doing. Trying to do the right thing because it's the right thing to do, and he's still trying to lead people in the right direction and maybe make amends for his past a little bit. But he always had a little bit of a pastor in him. He always had a little bit of a crossing the lines being crossed, and there's a lot of sympathetic expressions in the original movie that Bobby had toward Daniel, and Bobby was the good bad guy. And I love the fact that he's now a pastor, but he's not afraid to drink a beer with his buddies and get in a bar fight. He's not afraid to sweep his best friend's leg in church when he comes in drunk. So it's been an awesome journey.
Yeah, I can only imagine. So you were at the premiere. What did that feel like watching episodes let me see. Was it 13 and 14 that they played?
At the premiere, yeah, yeah.
Yes. And so what was that like to be in the presence of all these fans who haven't seen these episodes yet? For some of the cast members as well, they didn't, if they were in the episode, maybe they didn't see it, but what was that like to be around all of those people and to have Johnny come back out in the black gi and all of that at the very end. What did that feel like?
You know, um, I don't know what it felt like. I mean, the room was electric. It was there was a bittersweet. It was bittersweet to know that this was the conclusion of this series that for the last 7 or 8 years or whatever it's been has been living through COVID, add on a year, right? 6 seasons. So it's been there's been a lot of excitement and electricity year after year with Cobra Kai, and fans can't wait for new episodes to drop and so on. And knowing that it was coming to an end was one part of it, right? And then sitting in the audience with the creators and all the cast members, and then there was some fans in there too, and who hadn't seen any of it. And I don't know. It was a mixture of emotions. It was fun. It was fun for me to have my daughter there and my wife. I've wanted my daughter to participate in and walk the carpet with me and participate in what her father has been, what has been a major part of her father's life for a long, long time, so that she at least feels a part of it. I didn't want her left out. She actually came with me to the set to film episode 12. And so there was a lot of different emotions going on. I think seeing Johnny return in the black gi was, it's just the brilliance of the writing and the direction that they wanted to go with the character. I will say, and I sent Billy a text afterwards, that he's a good actor, right? He's just very talented. He's a talented director. He directed my episode 12. He's a talented guy. And you just kind of expect he's just going to be good in every show, right? In every scene. He's got that character in him. He channels Johnny Lawrence, right? And but the scene between him and Marty, where he cries, and that scene took it to a whole nother level. And I said, man, you're just expected to be good. It's all, you're always consistent, but that scene is Emmy worthy. That scene really put an exclamation mark on Johnny Lawrence and the character and the relationship he had with Kreese. I wish Bobby could have had an exclamation mark put on his character with his relationship with Kreese. But and there was applause after that scene, well deserved applause. So I hope he gets an Emmy nod at least, if not winning Emmy, because he deserves it. He's been brilliant throughout this entire thing.
Absolutely. I think often we still bring up in season 2 when Johnny has a conversation with Miguel at the diner across the street from the hospital. That's, we were kind of seeing it and we're like, oh, the show is more than a comedy or a dramedy. Like, it's really heartfelt moments and tugs at the heartstrings and all of that. So it's really great mixture of all of that. I saw Tony O'Dell was also in attendance. You mentioned bringing your daughter. I know she's she hasn't quite reached a teen yet, but before the premiere, did she have a sense of like, oh, my dad was in this like classic movie that is beloved by people globally? Did she understand that or have any idea?
She has a sense of it. Yeah. I mean, she's been to a few autograph signings with me and sees the fans and the excitement in these people and sees me signing autographs. And she knows most of, Uncle Billy, Uncle Tony, Uncle Marty. She knows these guys. And then she's recently met the younger kids. She wanted to meet, Peyton List and Jacob and, and she got to do that. I was at a Comic-Con somewhere and she was all into gymnastics. She used to be able to lay on her stomach and touch her feet over her head to the ground, the toe, right? She was so flexible. It used to scare me, like you're going to break your back. And so she was FaceTiming with Peyton List, and showing her that move. And Peyton never forgot it. That was the first time she had met Jacob and Peyton. I was at this Comic-Con, and then she got to meet them in real life. So, I mean, she has a sense. I don't know if she maybe that night showed her. Maybe that night there was media, and I talked to her about it. No, this is not the time for you to be doing back handsprings down the red carpet. Keep your, this isn't about you. But she got a sense of it, maybe that night, how big it was. But I don't, the global thing, I don't know if she quite absorbs that yet. But I wanted her to be a part of it, because later on she will, right?
Yeah.
She'll know, my dad was a part of this mega legacy franchise, iconic movie that did this, pioneered this whole thing, right? There's never been another movie that has done what Karate Kid has done in terms of keeping the characters 30 some odd years later in a series and watching that development. This is all, it's all, Josh and John and Hayden and their vision, and it's, remarkable. It's iconic, and it's one of a kind. So
yeah, it really is.
Yeah, and I definitely wanted her to be a part of it, so she knows when she's older what her dad had been up to. So
yeah, it's truly amazing what John, Josh, and Hayden have done, and the entire cast and crew. Without them, we wouldn't get what we have, obviously.
Yeah.
And to a lot of people, Cobra Kai is their Karate Kid. So like I'm starting to hear that, and that's really, really awesome. It has been a while since I've caught up with you, and since then you have released another book.
Yeah.
I see it right behind you there, The Hidden Life Lessons of Mr. Miyagi. So I literally just got it yesterday. So I put just like a small dent in it. I did, read the foreword by Billy, William Zabka, to those that haven't quite caught on that he goes by Billy. But yeah, I was reading a few pages, and if you could talk about like the idea of the hidden life lessons of Mr. Miyagi. I was skimming through, and there was like a, I don't know. Actually, I don't know. It's not. Oh, it's a fact. So you have this thing. It's a fact, and the funny thing is, it came up to exactly the one that I wanted to reference. So it's a fact. The average person spends over 3 hours per day watching TV and 2.5 hours on social media. Wasted time is also a fact. That lack of time is one of the top life complaints. I felt a little attacked there, but all kidding aside, how that statement is so true. We're connected to our phones every day.
Yes. And I argue with my daughter about it every day. Like, get off of that iPad and stop watching YouTube. And,
you feel like Daniel a little bit in season 4 where he breaks Anthony's iPad,
Yeah, right. So I mean, I talk to a lot of people as a motivational speaker and an author. I'm speaking to more than just the Cobra Kai Karate Kid fan base. I'm speaking to people. I'm speaking to your life. And if you're one who, and many people are, who complain, I don't have enough time. I don't have enough time. I can't do this. I can't do that. That's like an excuse, right? I can't. And I put that, it's a fact in there for that reason. People are complaining they don't have enough time, and yet most people are wasting their time watching all that TV, watching all that, on social media and everything. What could they be doing with those recovered 4 to 5 to 6 hours a day? Count that up per day, per week, per month, per year. What could you do if you recovered that time? I'm not saying don't watch any TV. I'm not saying don't have a iPad or don't be on social media. But come on, man. If it's mastering you, you have to flip the switch. You want to be able to be the master of your own life. That's what this book is about. It's about mastery. It's about life mastery. And if you're letting social media and video games and television and entertainment, brainwash you and take over your mind and hijack your attention, your focus of attention, then you're not being the best life master, the best master of your own life that you can be. So yeah, I put that in that book for sure.
Yeah, there was a line in there that really stuck out to me too. I believe it was pretty early on, and it was. God, I apologize, but I will be paraphrasing. But you were saying something like, life is full of like misery, mediocrity, and do you know the line that I'm talking about? Yeah. And I'm just like, it's full of everything,
Yeah, no, I often say you can have 3 things in life. You can have misery, mediocrity, or mastery. You choose.
Yeah, 3 M's. Just pick one.
2 of them are really easy.
Yeah.
It's easy. It's easy to be miserable, and it's easy to be mediocre. It's not easy to be masterful, and that's the point of me saying that. But mastery will get you places in life that misery and mediocrity will never take you. So,
right. Yeah, 1,000%. What was the inspiration behind this particular book?
So if you start to get into the book and you start to look a little bit at my past, I go all the way back to when I was a competitive swimmer at the age of 3 years old, right? And that was my first introduction, really, as I started to get faster and faster in the pool and win more competitions, and started to realize the power of the mind and the mindset and how it plays into athletics and athletic performance. I've been involved in sports my whole life, competitive, of course, swimmer, golfer, martial artist. I've had my hand in some other sports as well, growing up in Reno, Nevada, in the outdoors, snow skiing, competitive snow skiing. It's just been I've used my body and I've played a lot of sports, but along the way, I knew about the power of the mind. Then, of course, I chose one of the most competitive careers on the planet, and in one of the most competitive towns on the planet, acting in Hollywood. And so where you're going to get a lot of no's, you're going to get a lot of losses. You're gonna think you got the part, and you're going to get the bad news. And so you really need to keep your center if you're going to participate in a town like that. And if you want to, you got to keep your confidence level up, your self-esteem. You can't take it personally. There's just a lot of personal development that goes into being an actor and surviving in a town like that for a period of time. And then, of course, I got into personal development. I was a sensei. And you're a life coach by default when you become a sensei. And you're teaching esoteric principles of the martial arts, and you're teaching, life skills like confidence, like focus, like respect, discipline. And those things are ingrained and expected to be taught in a dojo that's worth anything, And so it's just been a life journey. Then I, of course, was trained in neuro-linguistic programming, which had its hand in me wanting to write this book. I'll tell you about that in a second. And hypnosis, because I wanted to study the power of the subconscious mind, because I found out that Tiger Woods and Michael Jordan and a lot of high-level athletes used sports hypnosis as part of their mental training and visualization and all of that. So I go, okay, if Tiger Woods is using it, I'm going to get certified in it. I'm going to check it out. I went to school for it. Neuro-linguistic programming, which is Tony Robbins' background, kind of had its hand in the idea behind this book, because neuro-linguistic programming has a way of digging deep and saying, what does that mean? Peter, I really like your podcast. What does it mean to you? It means that I'm creative and I'm doing this. Okay, well, what does that mean? What does that do for you? What does it do for you to run this podcast? It gives me joy and it helps me connect with these actors and I just really enjoyed and I'm creative. And what does that do for you? Well, it makes me happy. Okay, well, being happy, what does that give you? What is it? So anyway, there's a line of questioning, and it's actually in the book that get to the heart of it, right? It boils down to the heart of it. And so the heart of it for most of us is, peace, joy, love, unity, these higher level, higher intentions, I should say, than the original intention that you thought. I'm going to start a podcast because, I might get a lot of likes and it might make me some money and I enjoy it and be creative. But really, what does all that give you? In the end, it's going to give you something bigger than you actually thought it was. That's unconscious stuff, right? So I thought, let me write a book that ties in my whole background and ties in a brand, the Karate Kid or Mr. Miyagi, the teachings of mastery. I thought, I've been around a lot of martial arts masters and life masters in my lifetime. But Mr. Miyagi, who can argue he wasn't a true life master? He was definitely a karate master, but he was also a life master. And he taught these life lessons to Daniel-san. And I thought, what is it we did not see on the screen that if we did see it, if I could dig into it a little bit and share what's even deeper there for most people, if I could do that and put it in a book, that might be a really cool thing, because it kind of, I was in the movie. It ties in all of the things I just mentioned, my athletic background and everything, into a nice book, but also a really cool title. You know, I think it's a really cool title, The Hidden Life Lessons of Mr. Miyagi. So what was hidden in the original movie? And I dive into those. So each chapter in that book is really a standalone lesson from something that Miyagi either taught Daniel, or something in the way that Mr. Miyagi just was. You know, his way of being. I like the bonsai trees, right? The way he treated them with respect. And he didn't let Daniel get away with calling him by the wrong name. You know? And he corrected him more than once, because names matter. Details matter. And so his mastery shows up even in just the way he was on the movie. So I dig into that. I wanted to put it all into a book. And yeah, that's the kind of the long story of how this book came about. So
I like how you just mentioned like him correcting Daniel like bonsai, and you know, going into. I'm not trying to segue into like episode 12, but in Karate Kid Part 2, there's that mailman that comes back to the backyard and mispronounces Miyagi, and Daniel corrects him.
right.
And same thing with episode 12, mailman in the backyard, and Daniel corrects him how to pronounce Taguchi both times. So I thought that was really interesting, and I wonder if you know, obviously on Cobra Kai it's a callback, but I do wonder if that's kind of a thing like Mr. Miyagi. Hidden life lessons, you know, like Daniel's picking up on these things, not just the martial arts, but the life stuff as well. So,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
really like that.
Miyagi would not let him get away with calling him a baby tree or a bonsai tree. It was a
Yeah,
bonsai, you know. And so, and yeah, it was the way he was, and teaching Daniel those things. But think about that. If you're, for instance, if you're a salesperson, and that's your job, you're into sales. Well, your number one job, whatever you do in life, you're in the people business. You're not in the sales business. You're in the people business. And if people don't like you, if you can't establish rapport with people, then you're not going to sell much. If people disrespect you, if I disrespect somebody, I don't want to buy anything from that person. If they call me by the wrong name more than once and they've been corrected, I start to think they just don't care enough to get it right. You know, and I talk about it in the book. It's a really good example. Bobby, Tommy, Ron, Rob. People have seen me, and they've shouted out, "Get him a body bag!" And I'm like, well, it's funnier if I said the line.
Right.
It's not that funny to me, you know. And they'll say, "Hey, Rob, how you doing?" I'm like, "It's Ron, man." And then. If they've been correct, I get it. You know, I get how it can be confusing. And we all back in the day, we all kind of looked alike with the blonde hair and the California look. And our names were very similar, Bobby and Tommy and Johnny and, you know. And then there was Dutch. You know, so I get it. However, it's always been like a little bit of a thorn in my side when people mistake me for Rob Garrison. Like, if you're a true Karate Kid fan, you know the difference. So you know, and that's my personal experience with it, but I'm just saying, if you're in sales and the person you're trying to sell to, and you just keep calling them by the wrong name because you just don't care enough to get it right, how many sales are you going to make?
Right.
You know, it's about connection and stuff. So anyway, yes, names matter, details matter. I put it in the book for all of those reasons and more. You know,
I think maybe that's why Kreese had the names on the gis, you know, because he couldn't keep a straight eye there.
Could be, man.
Yeah. I'll say this, and then we can move on from the book. You know, because you do mention Mr. Miyagi, there's a great photo of you and Pat Marita in there as well. I feel I may have seen that before, but I had no idea because in the caption it says that he was visiting your dojo.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that visit and
Yeah.
why did he come visit?
Yeah. So I was doing promotions at my dojo with all of my students, not just the kids, but the adults as well. Big promotion, people getting promoted to black belt and everything in between. Lots of kids, their parents are there. We were putting on a big demonstration. We were all dressed up and I did this whole demo with weapons and all kinds of stuff. And I ran into Pat Marita like a couple weeks before. And I said to him, hey, would you like to come? I don't know how I don't remember how the conversation was sparked and how I told him, hey, I'm doing demo and a big demonstration and promotions at my dojo. Would you like to come and say hello to my students? And he said, sure. He's Uncle Pat. So I had my black belts keeping everybody in check. Sensei wasn't there. I wasn't there. They're like, where's Sensei? He's late. He's late to promotions and a demonstration. And what's going on? It's because I had driven across the valley to Universal Studios to pick up Pat and drive him across the valley. And so everybody's like lined up, wondering what's happening, waiting for me to arrive. And I walk in with Mr. Miyagi.
Yeah. That's amazing.
It was amazing. It was, he didn't have to do that, but he did it for me. He did it for my students, signed autographs, took pictures, watched the demonstration, and it was a magical night. And that's who Pat was, I love him and I miss him.
Yeah. Do you know if was there any footage from that day? Any cameras or?
Oh yeah, but it's all on old stuff. It was back in when we everybody did not have a cell phone with 4K ability, filming everything. I think I have it. I think I have the demo on a little camcorder with tape that if I would have to dig through a lot of tape to find it. I'm sure I will one day. And try to get it transferred into modern day technology so you could actually watch it. I've got it laying around somewhere.
Speaking of footage, I remember you sharing the story of there was a sequence where Bobby goes up to Kreese, takes the belt off and throw it. And since then, we've gotten it in supplemental material, I believe on maybe the 40th anniversary or it's one of the releases. They finally released it. So you saw it, I'm assuming, no?
Oh yeah. It's
Okay.
out there on YouTube. Somebody on YouTube, I think if you just go to YouTube and you type in Bobby Brown,
Mhm.
someone put together a montage of my character back from that day, all the way through Cobra Kai, and then put in that scene. And then somebody on TikTok put it out there. And actually, Billy texted it to me the other day. He goes, I forgot we shot this. And I go, I never forgot it. Because it says all you need to know about who Bobby was.
Yeah.
He takes his belt off after hurting Daniel, walks across the floor, and throws his belt at Kreese's feet and walks out of the gym. Now, the reason they didn't use it is because they needed me to not be separated from the Cobra Kai, and they needed me to come back in the sequel at the beginning, at the car scene, and still be part of Cobra Kai. So they never used the scene because they found a different ending to the original movie.
Right.
So,
and just imagine, like, if that was kept in, what that could have done for Bobby Brown, like going into the future.
you want to hear this one? So
Okay.
I was
Yeah.
told, and I don't remember who told it to me. I think don't hold me to this. I think it was R.J. Lewis, who was one of our producers. But there was a version of Karate Kid 2 where that they were considering, where we all remained, all of our characters remained intact, except they would have used that scene. I would have split from Cobra Kai. I would have befriended Daniel and started training with Mr. Miyagi, and I would have come back at the end and fought in the All Valley Championships against my old friends.
Oh, wow. I feel I've heard a version of that. That sounds familiar.
Yeah, there was a version of it. Obviously, it didn't happen. They went off to Okinawa instead. But imagine what that would have done for Bobby.
Yeah. Miyagi would have had, for the first time, two students in one movie.
Right.
Because a lot of people were kind of holding out for Julie Pierce to return in Cobra Kai.
Yeah.
Um, you not too long ago, you were mentioning how you guys all look alike, and or the names rather, and then there's Dutch. Your book was released in December 2024, the same month we lost Chad McQueen. If you would like to share any stories, after Karate Kid, during Karate Kid, that you guys were all close to him, obviously, but for those that really grew up with the movies, John Josh and Hayden love Dutch. Everyone loves Dutch, and the scene calling Daniel Danielle like is just really great stuff. If you can take a moment to share some memories with him of him.
Yeah, Chad was Chad. He was his own guy. He was a little bit of a wild child. He had a lot of Dutch in him.
Mm.
Nice guy, though. I mean, we all got along. Great guy. But his dad was Steve McQueen. So even back then, he liked to drive fast. He liked his Porsche. He liked to, get in a little bit of trouble. I think one time, I'm pretty sure if I have this memory correct, but anyway, one time he got pulled over, and he was late to the set because he got pulled over by the cops. I can't remember. I honestly don't remember, but there's that did happen, but he might have got thrown in jail. He may have had Jerry Weintraub come and bail him out. And I don't honestly, my memory kind of fails me on that one, so I don't know if that's if we were just talking about a what if that really happened, or if I can't remember if that actually happened. I might have to verify that with a few of my buddies. But I can tell you a story that actually did happen, that I know for sure happened, because again, Chad is just a little bit of a wild child. He had a fun-loving, outgoing, a little bit crazy guy, and I can't believe I'm going to tell you this story. I've told it before in a written article, so I'm going to say it to you. But we were doing the skeleton costumes. We were all in the skeleton costumes, fitting very tight to our body. It was cold out. It was like 2 or 3 in the morning. We were shooting this thing, running across the field. And he goes, he said, we were in the trailer. I think we were in maybe his trailer. He says, guys, I learned this from somebody, one of my dad's buddies or something, and I'm going to do this. And he goes, he takes a sock and he rolls up the sock, and he goes, and he stuffs it inside his costume down to his crotch. He goes, I'm gonna put this in the scene. He's just laughing about it. And he did. I mean, he wore this sock inside his skeleton costume, to enhance his manhood, let's just say.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
I mean, that's Chad, though. That's the kind of guy Chad was, but lots of fun to be around, and just a bit of a wild child.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. I can't say that I've heard of that one. I wonder if that article, if we can pull that up somehow, in the age of Google and such. What was that like to see in episode 13 Skeletons that scene kind of recreated on Cobra Kai?
Yeah, well, it didn't surprise me. I mean, they've paid homage to the original movie throughout the entire series. There's just little things, little hints of that took you back to the original movie. They did some stuff on the soccer field, like where I tripped Daniel. I think it was maybe Jacob.
Yeah, season 3. Yeah,
maybe Hawk. Doing the thing, and then one of the first things I remember, I just cracked up. I think it was the first season where Daniel's cooking pancakes, and he says, "Come on, Sam, like Bananarama chocolate chip pancakes." Right?
Right.
So if you know who Bananarama is, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. It might have been the same. You see, actually, I don't think they used that song until season 2.
Whatever it was. Yeah.
Yeah. No, the reference could have been in season 1, but we wouldn't hear it until season 2, because they played it when it was like the first day of school, just like the movie.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the episode, when Kreese takes the dojo from Johnny, we get the updated version. That's by Kari Kimmel. Yeah. So I really like that version too.
Yeah.
Um, Episode 12, Rattled. Billy directed it. Ralph got to direct episode 603. Um, how when they brought you back, what was that discussion like? Were there any other ideas of incorporating the other OG Cobras, things like that?
You mean in
To,
season
uh,
6?
yeah, part three initially. Like, what was the initial talk about? Like, oh, hey, Sensei Ron, we're gonna bring Bobby back. What were you told?
Nothing. They just
Hmm.
sent me an email saying, "Hey, we're ready to bring you back for episode 12." They don't. There wasn't a lot of discussion. There was like, "Hey, here's the thing, and here's the script, and what do you want to do?" So obviously, I mean, I think it was a great thing for Bobby to, convince Johnny to not sleep on his own happiness, take the leap, and then of course Bobby and a lot of fans had already predicted this going back 2 or 3 seasons now. We want Pastor Bobby to marry Johnny and Carmen, right? I mean, I've gotten those messages for a couple years now on social media, and of course I can't answer them. I'm like, if you're going to ask me if I'm going to be in this show, I can't. You know,
Can't
I've
give
got to
details.
I've got to keep my mouth shut, and that's kind of the agreement I have with the guys and with Sony Pictures and everything. So anyway, I thought it was brilliant once again that Bobby actually does get to perform that ceremony, and it speaks to the journey that Bobby and Johnny have had together, going all the way back, and the contrast between the two characters, and Bobby trying to guide his best friend or into taking the right steps in his life, and so yeah, I thought it was great.
Now, for the people that have followed Billy's career, knows that he has directed before, Academy Award nominated. And what was that like to be directed by him? Somebody you've been friends with over several decades. How, if you could talk about like director Billy, if he like had any nerves because it's been some time, he's been in front of the camera for the past 6, 7 years now. Was it kind of like riding a bike? Like he just snapped into it just fine?
He he would, I think, rather be a director than an actor. I mean, I know Billy, and I know how much he loves being behind the camera and setting up the shots and all of that stuff. He's very good. He's a really, really good director with a good vision of things. And he took care of me, as an example, in the wedding scene inside the hospital. There was a curtain behind me. It was kind of a brown, ugly hospital curtain hanging behind me. It was just, and the crew, not knowing any better, turned the cameras around on me when it was time for my close-ups and stuff. And Billy's like, no, whoa, whoa, whoa. We're not going to have that thing hanging behind him. So he redirected everything, to have the cameras with a backdrop for me that was actually pleasing to look at to the eye. That's Billy's eye. That was his eye and his catch. And, I respect him for it, and I thank him for it, for not making me stand in front of that ugly ass curtain, But he's so good. And honestly, and I sent him a text. I said, I think our episode, season 12, or not episode 12,
Episode 12, yeah.
I think is it's one of the best episodes of the entire series, and it's because he had his hands on it, directing it. And as Ralph told me, he said, your episode it brings humanity back to the shows, and it's a much needed episode. It's really, really tight. It's really good, and I agree with Ralph, and I think Billy had a lot. His directing had a lot to do with that. Of course, the writing did. Of course, the actors do. They're always good, but Billy's directing he's phenomenal. He's a very talented guy.
Yeah, absolutely. And in that episode alone, you have the Sam and Tori conversation, but also the stuff with Johnny and Rosa, and then Johnny and Carmen at the hospital. There's a lot of moving parts in there, and everybody really brought their A game. I when I talk to people about this last batch, I talk about like 12 being um just really well directed. I kept the, kind of like more attention on it because I knew Billy directed it. And there's a lot of things that he did that made me just kind of pay attention a little bit more. The stuff
Yes.
with Chosen,
Yeah.
Amanda and Daniel getting drunk and seeing Luan Thomas, and it just everything is just it's well paced and everything's just visually stunning to look at, you
Yeah.
know. So yeah, I think it's really well done, and just like the dialogue, it really um it's straight to the point and stuff. I like, yeah, the stuff with Carmen. I just I don't know if I've seen Vanessa deliver all those ranges in one sequence before, and so really enjoyed to see that.
No.
Um, had there been any talks, or are you privy to any like ideas of like, oh, we considered like having Bobby and Daniel share more than just that one moment? I think a lot of people were like, oh, that was it.
Only from the fans,
Yeah.
only from the fans. I've gotten so, and again, this goes back before this season. This goes back 2, 3 years now, where fans of the original movie, they wanted to see stuff between Bobby and Daniel. They wanted to see stuff between Bobby and Kreese. And they never got it, and I don't know. I think there was a lot there, So yeah, from the fans' point of view, I got a lot of it. I got a lot. We want to see more, and even now, even after everything has dropped and everybody's seen everything, they're still like, there should have been a scene between Bobby and Daniel. I wanted to see more of that. What was that? Just a little pat on the shoulder and a hey man, how you doing? We needed more. Where was I got one the other day. Where was the apology? I said, well, it was in the original movie. I said, I'm sorry. What do you want from me?
Yeah.
I'm not the writer. A lot
Yeah.
of times they assume, well, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? Why didn't you want, I'm like, dude, I didn't write the show. If I had my hand in the writing room, you would have seen a lot more of Bobby in the episodes, but
Sure.
I had no say so. I just show up to do whatever they write, and the writing is brilliant. But I think a lot of OG fans are disappointed that there wasn't more OG stuff there, unresolved stuff. I after I sweeped Johnny's leg in church, after I take him out in church for coming in inebriated, I thought to myself, I wonder if in the future episodes, if they're going to write in a wedding scene, I'm performing it. A bigger wedding scene, not one in a hospital, but a real one. I'm performing it, and Kreese comes in drunk during the wedding, and I get to sweep Kreese's leg. How awesome would that have been? This is the stuff that plays in my mind. Like, oh God, if I was writing this, I might pitch that episode.
Have
But
you considered dabbling in any sort of fan fiction of your own with these characters?
well, these characters are owned by Sony. So
Oh, okay.
you can't
Yeah.
you can't just go write a Bobby Brown spinoff
Yeah, yeah,
without
yeah.
and fans have mentioned that one. They want to see a Pastor Bobby spinoff, which would, of course, I don't think I would turn it down. But just a note to Sony. But they own the characters. You can't just go use them at your will.
Right, right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, because I was, like many other fans, we were wondering how come it was just that, and I wonder if it's, they didn't want to take too much away from the moment of the proposal and the wedding. So a lot going on there in that sequence, but
Yeah, yeah,
it was a nice acknowledgement nonetheless. Like,
yeah,
okay,
yeah. And I was told initially, I don't remember. I do know I was given the direction to go ahead, and I think it was Josh Heald who gave me the direction. Just go ahead and this time, give Ralph a pat on the shoulder and say just a gentle, hey man, because you guys know each other, you live in the same community, you've made amends. He's you're a pastor in the community, you're well known, and he has a car dealership, so just say hi, okay, Right, Ralph and I were joking. I said I should come in with the Bible and tap you on the knee and go, "How's that knee doing, man?" As I passed by him, and then Ralph said, what I should do is go, "Aren't you that mother?" All those years ago, and we have a brawl inside the hospital room.
yeah, right.
But
the blocking in the waiting room was interesting too, because you guys are pretty much right across from each other, right?
yeah.
That was the other thing too. I think maybe that's what made fans even like, well, they're right in front of each other. Why aren't they talking instead of just being on their phones?
Yeah,
Wasting that
yeah.
2.5 to 3 hours of your day.
Yeah, because the assumption was that we've already made amends.
Mhm.
We know each other. That was the assumption. So we're just kind of waiting for the baby to show up.
Right.
The funniest thing I thought was we were sitting there, and I don't even know if it showed up on this camera, but Yuji is sitting back on it by himself. And this really was happening. Like he was fighting with a potato chip bag. He couldn't open it. And so out of the corner of my eye, I'm catching him, and he's wrestling with this thing, and it really, for real, it wouldn't open. And so here's this, supposedly great martial artist master, and he can't open a potato chip bag, and he's fighting with it. It was funny stuff.
Yeah.
It was,
I don't think that made it.
I don't think so, but
Yeah, I'll go back and check. That's hilarious. So that sounds like a possible deleted scene,
I,
again,
I think it was just something that was organic. It was just happening, and for real, it was happening. Like he was really trying to open the bag, it wouldn't open. And
yeah.
they said cut, and I looked at him. I go, "That's hilarious." He goes, "It won't open. It really won't open." It's so funny.
That is funny. Oh
Yeah.
man. Yeah, unfortunately I spoke with Yuji before the third drop. And I don't think I had seen this. I don't think I got the screeners yet at that time, but that would have been a fun tidbit, because I didn't get to pick his brain about part three. Um, do you remember anything else from, your days of filming that episode? Um,
Well,
uh,
yeah. I mean, uh, that scene. Well, since we're talking about that particular scene, that right when we were done with that scene. They announced the actors that were rapping. I mean, that was the last episode that was shot.
okay.
The final episode had already been shot. This was the last episode of Cobra Kai to be shot ever.
Mm.
All the kids, I call them kids, they're not kids, but all the younger Cobra Kai, the gang, they were all, even though they weren't working, were all showing up to say goodbye and everything. And it was a very emotional moment. After we wrapped that particular waiting room scene, they wrapped me. They said, we're wrapping Tanner Buchanan and Sholo. A lot of tears, a lot of emotion, a lot of hugging. Ralph gave me a hug. I mean, Ralph and I, obviously we go way, way back. This whole freaking thing started 40 years ago. And, we're hugging each other, but the kids were exceptionally emotional. And I get it. I know what it's like to be on a set and making these bonds. And those kids will have the same bond that we had all these years later. So I remember that very, very well. And just a ton of emotion when they're calling out the names of the actors who are rapping for good.
Hmm.
That's it. No more. And just all this stuff came out of them. And so there you have it. Yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of content, as you'd imagine, that came out, between John Hurwitz and then like the official account for Cobra Kai on X to release all these images and stuff. What I do remember is like the picture of Ralph and Courtney Hengler embracing like when they rapped, and it was from Billy's episode, and so that makes sense that that was like the last episode filmed. So I may have missed that little tidbit that was filmed last, but I guess I
Yeah.
should have figured because Amanda does show up in the finale.
Well,
Yeah,
I
and
think
so
the winery scene was the last scene shot.
oh, I see.
Yeah. So you probably, if they were hugging, you probably saw it at the
Mm-hmm.
winery. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yeah. As we get ready to wrap up, I really enjoyed seeing pictures from the premiere. It looked really big in terms of the everything there, but also everybody that was invited, people not part of the show. I mean, that's how premieres go. You have celebrity guests and things like that. But just to see all these familiar faces from all the different seasons, from the all the different films. Was there anybody that you interacted with that? Well, obviously Bobby Brown didn't have many scenes with a lot of other people, but who were some people that you hadn't seen in a really long time until the premiere? Someone like I know that you were on 52 Masters with Sensei William, so I know he was at the premiere as well. Just people like that.
Yeah, well, I mean, those like William and Daryl and Tony. I kind of Tony and I met up and we talk all the time. And Billy. These guys I know and I've seen, but there was people I've never met, right? Like Thomas Ian Griffith. I'd never met him,
Mm.
and so I shook his hand and we introduced and we go. I can't believe we have never met. We're on the same in the same universe here. People like that. He's a really tall guy, by the way.
6'5", yeah.
And there was some of the newer people, some of the Korean fighters and dojo. I never met those people, never interacted with them. And I didn't meet everybody, right? It was, like you said, it was big. It was a big premiere. We did the whole red carpet, which was actually a black carpet, and the screening. And then we went over to the LA Academy, which was down the street, like several blocks down the street to a whole another location. And it was loud, a lot of music, a lot of stuff happening there for the reception. And that went on till midnight. One of the people that I really did want to meet and hadn't met I met her in person, but she was working and I was finishing working. And this was back in season 3. And that's Susan Gallagher, homeless hussy, I call her. And she calls me preacher boy. We go back and forth, but I love her. I love her energy. And she's just an amazing person. I really want to meet her. She reaches out to me, even though we've never really connected in that way. Didn't have the time on the set, but we follow each other on social media. She knew the struggles that I've been having with my wife and her surgeries, and my wife's been going through hell the last couple of years with a surgery that went bad, and then another. And anyway, so there's just been a lot of stuff, and she's always checking in. She's always, how you doing? And then she connected with my wife. My wife connects with everybody. The world loves her, which is awesome.
Shout out to Sensei Stacy.
Yes, she's an amazing person and a true warrior. I mean, she's been through hell and kept a positive mindset for most of the time. And I wouldn't have done emotionally or mentally as well as she has. But Susan... she always connects. She always reaches out. She always wants to know how Stacy's doing, what's up. She's just a beautiful person. So I was really happy to get to know her a little bit more. And I think it's just such a big cast. It's so huge. The Cobra Kai cast and all the stories and everything going on in the show. Even that night did not have the time to meet and speak with everyone, that I would have liked to, but who knows? Who knows what the future holds? Because you know what they say, Cobra Kai never die. So
That's what they said. If Daniel even says it now, so it's got to be true,
yeah,
if you didn't
right.
believe Terry Silver before.
Exactly.
Um, Sensei Ron, it's just a pleasure to catch up with you. You're just, you're a motivation speaker, life coach, and all these things, and so you're just very easy to listen to. And this book, even though I got a few pages into it, it was already inspiring. And so yeah, I can't wait to finish this. Is there anything else that you're in the works that you kind of want people to kind of keep an eye out on for in the near future?
Yeah, well, I would keep an eye out. Follow me on social media. Instagram is the real Ron Thomas, and Facebook is Sensei Ron Thomas. And I would say one thing about the book: if you want a signed copy from me, I will sign it to you. But the only way to do that, unless you see me at a Comic-Con or you see me at a book signing, is to go to my website and order one, and order it signed, senseironthomas.com. Go to the products page, which is, I think, /shop. And if you order one, I'll sign it and send it to you wherever you live in the world, domestically, internationally, or here, or internationally. That's just a blurb on that if you want a signed copy, or signed photos from me too. I can, without having to go to a Comic-Con, I have a bunch of photos from Cobra Kai and Karate Kid that I'll sign as well. And you can get them on my website. That's Sensei Ron Thomas. But as far as the future holds, I've got some, I'm focusing on the book promotion, obviously, speaking engagements, obviously, appearances. But I've got some new behind the scenes, sort of a new behind the scenes team, if you will, that start to push me in certain directions. So I have nothing to announce at the moment, but hopefully that'll change shortly. So stay tuned. Follow me.
In any words to the fans that have been supportive of you all these years?
Oh my God, you fans. Without you, there is no Cobra Kai. There is no Karate Kid. And the fans I've met around the world, whether over in England or wherever I've been, when I've met you people in person, you guys are amazing. And there's always been an amazing energy behind the camera, in front of the camera, I should say, with my friends and with all of us. And I think that's part of the success of the Karate Kid and Cobra Kai. But also that energy somehow has extended out into the universe to the fans. And when I meet fans, they bring such warmth and sincerity and honesty and transparency. So it's been a real pleasure to just get to shake hands with people, talk to them, talk about their experiences of how the original movie has changed their lives, and how much they enjoy seeing us all back and going deeper with our characters all these years later. The fans have just been awesome. And so from my heart, thank you.